Hey everybody, I've had my Vive Ultimate Trackers for around a year, and it's been about 7 months since my last video I made on them. I wanted to make a follow-up talking about how they have changed, and in some ways how they haven't changed, and just overall let you know if, at the end of 2024 and going into 2025, if they are a tracker that you should consider buying. And if you're watching this video in the future, read my pinned comment, because it is going to be updating you guys on the status of how these trackers change over time, and if this video ever becomes outdated. But, as of right now, here is the most up-to-date information that I know. First off, I want to talk about the battery life of these trackers, because, out of the box, they are much better than you would expect for being an entirely standalone solution. I'm a relatively heavy VR user, which means that every time that I'm in VR, I'm doing a session that is going to be lasting me, at the minimum 3 hours, usually between 4 and 8 hours. So far, when using the Ultimate Trackers, I have not had a single session where they have run out of battery if I had charged them beforehand. In my experience, Vive's claims of getting 7 hours of battery life with these trackers has actually been a bit conservative. Sometimes I have been able to get over 8 hours of straight battery life out of these trackers while using them with my Steam VR setup. And honestly, that is extremely impressive for a system that doesn't rely on any external tracking factors. It's really a testament to how good and how efficient modern technology has become. That said, if you are concerned about using these for VR and assuming that you are not literally spending 12 hours in VR chat, these will probably last you with no problems whatsoever, and really, if you charge them for 30 minutes, you're going to probably be fine for the remainder of what you would want to do in a day. I've even found myself having to charge my Vive Tracker 3.0s more than I've had to charge my Ultimate Trackers. I also haven't really noticed as much of a fall off in the battery life over time like I have with the older Vive Trackers. One problem that I have had with all of my Vive Tracker 2.0s and my 3.0s is that the longer that I use them for, as in the more time that I've owned them for, the worse the battery life gets. My Ultimate Trackers have pretty much the same battery life as the day I bought them new, and honestly, I want to commend Vive for that aspect of the hardware because in my experience, it has been really good. Now, one of my biggest old criticisms of the Ultimate Tracker was with their actual initial setup, specifically if you're on PCVR. I'm happy to say that they have massively improved the initial setup and the syncing process. Nowadays, there is actually a built-in calibrator in Steam VR, and it's very easy to calibrate the Ultimate Tracker at any point without disrupting the app that you're in, and furthermore, the initial setup is generally more reliable than it used to be. If you are setting up new Ultimate Trackers, expect to need to do at least one firmware update, but once you've done that one firmware update, you're probably going to be fine. And Vive has been regularly implementing new firmware for these trackers that has improved both their reliability and their performance in low light situations, which I'll be talking about more in a minute. In the Vive Discord and on their YouTube channel, they do have helpful video tutorials for setting the trackers up, and I can say with confidence that it is significantly better than when the beta was first introduced, and these days, I do think that the majority of users should have little to no problems getting the trackers set up initially. You might have to do some troubleshooting, but if you join the Vive Discord and join the Ultimate Tracker channels, you should be able to find pretty much any of the issues that you would have and people that have solutions. Just simply look it up in the Discord server. Now, once you do your initial synchronization with these trackers in Steam VR, you're going to notice right away that they are actually incredibly good at tracking. Now, I wouldn't say that they are better than the Vive 3.0 trackers or even the 2.0 trackers, but they are relatively on par with them, with the biggest caveat being that when you are doing very fast motion, sometimes they might lag for a brief moment before catching themselves and realigning. And that has never really been a major issue for me as I'm not doing dancing in VR, but if you're going to be a much heavier user of your trackers, you'll probably have a better time using the lighthouse-based tracking, but for most people, that's not really going to be much of an issue. One thing that is a big issue with these compared to the regular Vive trackers is that if you're ever going to be sitting in a chair, like let's say you have a mesh chair like I have found that the Vive Ultimate Trackers completely fall apart if they don't have absolutely enough light and if there's an object that they're not expecting. This can really vary depending on your circumstance, and I've read that some people haven't really had issues with this, but personally, I have not once been able to sit down in my chair with my Ultimate Trackers and have them continue to track in a reliable way. Sometimes it will result in my hip tracker flying away very far, sometimes it will stay in place and disconnect, but most of the time, it's just a generally unreliable tracking experience if I'm not standing in a clear space. However, that's not an issue with the Vive Tracker 3.0, and this gets me into the next thing I want to talk about, which is specifically what these trackers are good for. Coming in at $600 US for a kit of 3, these are expensive trackers. Depending on where you are in the world, they could be more expensive than the Vive Tracker 3.0s. The biggest difference being that the Vive Tracker 3.0s rely on SteamVR base stations, which in themselves are expensive. If you are in a SteamVR based ecosystem already, I can genuinely quite highly recommend not getting the Ultimate Trackers and just sticking with either Tundra Trackers or Vive Tracker 3.0s. Personally, my daily drivers are Vive Tracker 3.0s. After using the Ultimate Trackers for about 5 months, I got tired of the minor reliability issues that I had with my Ultimate Trackers, and so I switched back to Vive Tracker 3.0s. But if you are daily using a Quest headset or another standalone, like the Vive XR Elite, it definitely makes more financial sense to buy the Ultimate Trackers as long as you don't mind putting up with a little bit of jank occasionally. That being said, they're really not that bad. And these days, if your room setup has ideal circumstances, they are generally pretty reliable trackers. If you're using a Quest-based headset and you're not using any third-party programs, you will likely experience some scaling issues in SteamVR, wherein the trackers will be slightly misaligned with your play space. So if you walk 5 or so feet to the left or the right, your trackers might be around a half-foot off. It depends from setup to setup, but that has been both in my experience and in my friend Kaz's experience, who also owns a set of Vive Ultimate Trackers. This is not just a me problem. In rooms that are not extremely well lit and consistently lit at all times, you might find that sometimes there will be dead spots with the trackers that there weren't previously between play sessions, and there are a lot of factors that can adjust the way that these trackers respond to the room, whereas with SteamVR-based trackers, they don't really care as long as they are in view of the lighthouses. And that is one of the biggest downsides to me of the Ultimate Trackers, is that changes to your room can result in massive changes to the tracking quality, and sometimes you'll have to recalibrate. It's really not a big deal. Recalibration takes anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes depending on how fast you are, and you can do most of it within VR itself, so it's not usually a big deal. And during the same play session, it's rare that I've ever had to completely recalibrate my trackers. But I have had to do that a few times, even after all of the recent firmware updates. I cannot overstate the importance of having a really, really well-lit room if you're going to be using the Vive Ultimate Trackers. You need a room that has good, even lighting. You need a room that has a good, strong light source so that you can use these at night, and trust me, you cannot use the Vive Ultimate Trackers in a dark room at night. You have to have your lights on. And if you have any windows that can introduce inconsistent lighting, you're going to want to make sure that those have blinds or curtains that will be blocking most of the light coming in, because any changes in lighting can make the Ultimate Trackers get kind of confused. And I think that that's sort of the biggest thing that defines the Ultimate Trackers, is that there is a very big difference in experience that different people have had with these. There are some people in my previous comment section that had said that they had very similar experiences with the Ultimate Trackers, and other people that had said that they'd had entirely problem-free experiences. And this is something to keep in mind. My experience might vary very differently than yours. You could have a significantly worse or a significantly better experience. Overall, for the majority of people that buy these, they do seem to be relatively reliable trackers, and the biggest obvious benefit of them is the fact that they don't require you to invest in the SteamVR ecosystem. If you're already using SteamVR, there is no reason to buy the Vive Ultimate Trackers. If you are not using SteamVR and you have the money to invest in full body, these are probably your best overall option when it comes to ease of use and general applicability. With that in mind though, I'm still going to be sticking with my Vive Tracker 3.0s as my current dailies, and if in the future these change and get significantly better, I will of course make another follow-up video or a follow-up comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about these, and is there any VR technology that you really want me to test out? Let me know in the comments below, and I might do so, because I'm always looking for new cool VR tech. I'm always looking for new VR tech to try out. So, you know what to do, guys. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for coming by, and have a wonderful night. And also, check out the merch store.